Music is a mysterious thing. Sometimes it makes people remember things they do not expect. Many thoughts, feelings, memories, things almost forgotten, regardless of whether the listener desires to remember or not. For the quarter century of its existence, the Xeno series has always placed an emphasis on having fantastic music, and Xenoblade 3 is no exception. What is different, though, is the fact that it is directly important to the story this time, and the two main characters, in fact, are musicians. You could very reasonably think that this thought process would lead us down analyzing the lyrics of the two vocal songs in 3, but no, we're saving that for a later video. Because when I listened to the ending theme of Xenosaga 3, I noticed some very interesting parallels and things that could be related to elements of Xenoblade 3 that I think it's very worth analyzing and discussing. The neat thing about this is, I'm not going to actually talk about the content of Xenosaga 3 or the Saga series as a whole, as I don't think I really need to in order to get my point across. I will of course need to be spoiling the entirety of Xenoblade 3 and 1 and 2 by proxy, but I will not be directly discussing anything about the Saga series. That being said, you can definitely glean some plot events that happen from the lyrics of Maybe Tomorrow, so watch with your own risk. You might end up spoiling Xenosaga for yourself if you're good at analyzing things. Also, if you look up the in-game version of Maybe Tomorrow, you'll see a nearly 8-minute long song. Don't worry, Maybe Tomorrow has the subtitle Maybe Tomorrow Ending Medley. Almost half of that is a medley of other important songs from the Xenosaga series that play throughout the ending cutscenes of Saga 3, so I only need to talk about the part with words. Don't worry, we're not going full Luxon this time. While I'd love to just play bits of the song for you, unfortunately, Xenosaga music by Yuki Kajiura is basically the only Xeno stuff that will actually get claimed on YouTube, so you will be stuck with me for the entirety of this video. The very first lines of the song are already some of the most Xenoblade 3 core stuff outside of Xenoblade 3 itself. The moon is gone, and the night is still so dark. I'm a little bit afraid of tomorrow. So I hope you're starting to see what I'm getting at. That is Mobius the song stanza right there, and I don't mean Zed and his cronies, I mean the Mobius feeling that exists in all of humanity, even those within Ionios. Just general fear and anxiety towards an uncertain future, which I know Shulk's entire thing was to make an uncertain future, but when the continued existence of your universe is put into question, it's understandable for that to become a bad thing. Obviously, the stanza has its own meaning in the proper Xenosaga context, but spoiler alert for just the song, this stanza does come back around and can be read in a very anti-Mobius way that fits extremely well with the themes and ending of Xenoblade 3. While I would love to read into the moon being gone as something referencing the eclipse, unfortunately, the eclipse in Xenoblade 3 is the wrong kind of eclipse for the moon being gone, because it's the one where the moon blocks the sun, so we can't go that hard with it. Technically, you could say that when the other world's origin appears in the sky, it would be blocking out the moon, so the night would get even darker beyond the glow of origin and the world's about to collide, so there's a little wiggle room there, but I don't think it's worth reading it that deeply. What is worth reading deeply is the next stanza. For this day was so long and hard for me, and I've lost some of the things so far I have trusted. Fear and anxiety regarding an uncertain future. At the end of an abnormally long day that resulted in a lot of loss. That is literally the end of Xenoblade 3. They really did this to us in 2006. More interestingly though, I think, is reading this from the POV of Nia, as the next stanza is, now I will close my heart and sleep a while. Bless my dream with gentle darkness, until I could have my strength to wait for the light, maybe tomorrow. Yeah, that paints a much bleaker picture, but also one that I think is very accurate to how Nia was after the destruction of the first city. Melia, her only peer in the world, has been kidnapped. As far as we can tell, Rex, Pyra, Mithra, her family, have all been killed at this point. The city has been destroyed, probably including a lot of her own other descendants and other family members and friends.
Agnes is no longer under her control, and Keves no longer under Melia's. She has one ally in M, and probably House Vandam, and that's about it. Which means she's basically stuck on her own, sleeping, and praying that circumstances will somehow arrive to the point where there will be a Noah and Mio who can not only wake her up, but also free the world from the endless now. Maybe tomorrow indeed. Even that has a double meaning. It's not just the time when Nia can wake up again and help the fight against Mobius. It's maybe there will be a tomorrow, and we won't be stuck in the same day for eternity. Fittingly with 2 stanzas of Nia, we're now going to move on to 2 stanzas that I think are very interesting to read from the point of view of Mio. I've come through some betrayal, some old pains, some addiction to the love, and some goodbyes. Like you did, like my father did, I will cry a little while and wait for tomorrow. When I said this is from the POV of Mio, I didn't mean Mio, I meant Mio and Mio. Because the first stanza, that sounds a lot like M grappling with her very, very complicated feelings towards N. And then the second stanza sounds a lot like party member Mio, or at least a version of her with knowledge of her parentage and history outside Ionios, responding to that and being resolved to carry on in M's place. Like M did. Like her parents, Nia and Rex did, Mio will cry a little while and wait for the next day to come. Whether that's referring to her off-seeing day in Chapter 5, or just the unknown future in general. The best part of that is, we know that at different times, Nia and Rex ended up crying a little while and waiting for tomorrow, and that between the two of them, betrayal, old pains, addiction to love, and goodbyes were held in spades. So it's kind of weird that this song from before Xenoblade existed actually is a very good character piece for a character from the 4th Xenoblade game. While they don't fit as well as the ones that came before, the next 3 stanzas are sort of an alternate retelling of Where We Belong, Xenoblade 3's ending theme. An important fact about Xenoblade 3's 2 vocal songs is, despite the fact that the singer is a woman, they appear to both be sung from the perspective of a male narrator, as A Step Away, the one that plays during Chapter 5, explicitly has the narrator call himself a man, and because just knowing the gender of the narrator of A Step Away makes it pretty clear it's from the perspective of either Noah or N, and out of the 2 Offseers, Noah's the one who wanted to make his own music, it's thematically appropriate for him to also be the narrator of Where We Belong. All that goes to say, we got Noah's Where We Belong. This little bit of Maybe Tomorrow can sort of be Mio's version. As I said, it's not a perfect fit, as Where We Belong is sung from someone to their romantic partner, and talks about how they will see each other again because their feelings will remain. And this is a lot more generic and just about the concept of love, but I think it does still work as an emphasizing of the importance it has, and more or less the fact that it is inevitable when you're in the kind of situation Noah and Mio are. They've been together and torn apart so many times that this whole thing, losing their memories and being sent to different universes, is probably not the worst thing that's happened to separate them in all their times being together. So, yeah, it's inevitable. You cannot escape it. Love will bring you back together with the people you care about all the same. As for the lyrics themselves, the first stanza reads, "There's no way to be free from the loneliness. It took so long for me to notice. But now I'm on my way to find my light. Maybe this day, maybe tomorrow." This is largely just set up for the rest of it. "I will sleep a while until the dawn wakes me up again. I still believe, come what may." Now we're talking about sleeping here, so you might think this is going back to the Nia stuff, but remember, we're talking about endgame Mio here. This is a Mio who has accepted the Mobius part of her, so we could be getting a little bit of M perspective as well. And also, crucially, Noah's narration at the end of the game describes the world separating as a new day beginning. So this sleep is probably not Nia's sleep. This is the metaphorical going to bed and waking up in her own world that Mio does after Origin activates. And then, of course, I still believe, come what may, is where it really starts getting Where We Belong-y, Because, there are lines in that song that are, our feelings will remain the same together as one till we find ourselves again. It's sort of along the same lines as that, just not as directly talking about Noah. The last stanza, there is no way to be free from love. Deeper we sink in the darkness. Brighter it shines in our hearts, the light of love. And this can sort of be read as a final acknowledgement that Miu's feelings were the thing that kept her going in a lot of her different lives, and the thing that will continue to keep her going, and that no matter where she ends up, there will be a little spark of that. We saw that from Noah's perspective in the post-credits scene, where the new recreated young Noah has a small tinge, and he's able to hear Mio's off-singing tune and smile at it. And we can assume, of course, that Mio did that as well in her own world, at least something analogous to it, but the lyrics of this bit of the song, I think, if you read it as a Nia Mio thing, also sort of work as Mio coming to that realization herself. Do keep in mind, this is not at all what they intended when they were writing the song. It has to do with Xenosaga even more so than all this, but it's really cool to think about. In the original song, this is where it goes into several minutes of medley, and we eventually end on the last stanza, which is the only repeated part of the lyrics, so I guess technically this would be considered the chorus, but it only shows up twice at the very beginning and very end. Albeit, the version at the end has a very crucial difference. The moon is gone, and the night is still so dark. I'm a little bit afraid of tomorrow. But I will go. I'll go over. I will go. Yeah, if we're also including Noah's speech at the end as part of his big message in the lyrics of Maybe Tomorrow, then this would be Mio's equivalent of saying that you just have to walk on. It's okay to be scared of the future. You're just as in the dark about what's going to happen as anyone else is, and sometimes things aren't going to work out exactly as you envisioned them, but you're strong enough to keep going through that. That's the thing about the two of them. Once they figure out that there's someone in another world they want to reunite with, when they're talking to their friends or family about when it'll happen, they'll probably say, maybe this day, maybe tomorrow, and mean it in a good way. Because that is the Xeno protagonist thing to do. And I'm sure their family and acquaintances from the casts of 1 and 2 will agree. And the Xenosaga characters. The ones who I haven't talked about at all in this video, but for whom the lyrics of Maybe Tomorrow were supposed to resonate with even more, would also agree. And that's all I've got. So until next time, this is Luxon, signing off.